loads of trending stories about paternity fraud. I want bringing us to the topic of discourse today: paternity fraud. Yes, paternity fraud, as you all know, is also known as misattributed paternity or paternity discrepancy. It occurs when a man is incorrectly identified as the biological father of a child. The underlying assumption of paternity fraud is that the mother deliberately misidentified the biological father of the child. Research published in 2016 indicates that 1 in 50 British fathers is unknowingly raising a child who is a biological child of another man. Nigeria is ranked second highest paternity fraud in the world. 3 out of 10 Nigerian men are not the biological father of their children. As report has been making round that Nigeria has the second highest paternity fraud in the world after Jamaica, as many Nigerians has been unknowingly raising children that are not theirs. And to curb the trend, there has been call for introduction of mandatory DNA testing at birth. Yeah, so paternity fraud, the reason for paternity fraud are said to be one of the following: the annoying ego of men when a man is not ready or willing to compromise during childlessness. There's also poor perception of child adoption. That's when a man or a woman, they are not willing to adopt children. You see the woman doing whatever it takes to have a child for her husband. So hereby it also leads to paternity fraud, as the case may be. So I want to ask a question: is there anything more painful than having raised a child for a lifetime? I don't know how to put it. There's no way to even start to explain the pain a man can go through having raised a child after a long period of time, and you just find out that this particular child is not yours. So how is there anything more heartbreaking than that, Asha?
I'm not a man.
Okay, but I want you to try and understand.
Yes, I'll try to put myself in that shoe. I don't think there's anything more painful than that, because in the case of paternity fraud, it's always on the side that the lady actually knows that this child is not for this man. So why put the man through so much pain and so much stress of taking care of that child, and getting to a certain age, then the father gets to find out that that child is not his? It's devastating. It's heartbreaking.
There are issues of people will say, the women will just justify it by saying that my husband pushed me into it. Like I earlier mentioned, there are no ego of some men. There are men that are not willing to compromise when they have been married for a couple of years, maybe 4 years, 5 years. The woman has not been able to take in, and you see this pressure coming from both family, from the man's family. Let me use the man's family as a bone of contention, from the man's family, and you see the woman trying to do whatever it takes to have a child for this particular man. So is that a justifiable reason for this?
For me, it's not a justifiable reason, because I'm a woman, and definitely one day I'll be married. And looking into it, your husband's family is actually pushing you to conceive. First of all, there is a need to go for medical checkup. But let the husband understand, okay, this partner is the one having this issue, why the child is not coming. And if there is no issue, there's a need for patience. So just exercise patience with both partners, and maybe along the line, the child is going to come. And if the child does not come, it is even more beneficial if you adopt. In that case, okay, this child is an adopted child, or you do surrogacy, or whatever you are going to do, or whatever medical solution you are going to take. But then again, you should not go ahead to conceive for another man just because your husband people are pushing you and they are telling you one thing: oh, you are barren, you are this, you are that. And sometimes looking into this, like there was a case I was listening to earlier yesterday, and they were discussing about the issue of this paternity fraud. In this case, it is even a Nigerian case. It's between one Toyin and Oluwa something. But then again, it's far gone. But looking into it, it happened like 2020 or thereabout. the lady said, okay, the man was pushing her to conceive and all of that, and she has 4 children which are not for the man. And these 4 children, she conceived one for her pastor, one for a meat seller, and all of that. But to conclude the case, the 4 children are not hers. Even if the man was pushing her to say, okay, give me a child, and they go for a checkup, and the man happens to be at fault, or the lady happens to be at fault, or none of them is at fault, they could have gone ahead to maybe adopt or something. And now these children are 16, 18, and 14. Is even heartbreaking for the children to wake up one morning and say, okay, this man, this name you are bearing, this name that is on your certificate is not your father. I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult to accept that.
Aisha, talking about pinning or child, another man's child on your husband, as the case may be. Let's talk about DNA testing at birth. They have been called for a DNA testing at birth. There's an instance where a man fathered a child for a long period of time, and then the wife died during their period of time. So after the wife burial and everything, he found out that the children are not his. Who do you confront? The wife is no longer there to say who owns these children. So that brings the idea of why not DNA at birth should be a thing. Yeah, just after I've given birth to my child, let's just do a DNA. Should that be?
Let's confirm before taking the next step, before even naming the child or anything. Before the child starts bearing your name as his or her surname, there's a need for DNA test at birth. In fact, I would say like hospitals should start making it like a compulsory deal, because right now, if you go out there and now the report getting back is saying that 7 out of 10 men out there are fathering children that are not theirs. It's going to bring about a lot of complication, and it's going to bring about a lot of confusion, even for the child, for the parents, for the father, and all of that. There was even a case of a man that undergoes a vasectomy. That's a case where he has to lock himself up so he will not be able to produce. And after the surgery, he discovered that his 3 children are not his, and now he cannot.
He has already locked himself.
And now he cannot reproduce. He cannot give birth. He's having no hair, and the wife knows all this while that these 3 children that he's fathering are not his. So right from when the child is just giving birth to, a DNA test should be done to know, okay, if this is the father, all right, if this is the mother, okay. Because even sometimes some women, they claim there was an issue of when this paternity fraud came up between the couple. So the lady claims that maybe the baby was switched at birth, because currently she was saying, okay, she didn't cheat on her husband, she did not have any affair outside, but now the child is white and the husband is black. Both parents are black and the child is white. So it was really confusing. After the whole show and everything, it was discovered that the child was actually theirs. There was no switch at birth, both the paternity test conducted and all of that. So a proper paternity test and maternity test should be done before leaving the hospital with that child.
Okay.
I really feel for every man out there who are victims of this whole thing. Now, I heard a story recently about a man who raised 3 daughters, all in their 30s. The last one is around 31 or something, and then she falls sick usually. So when they said let them go and check what's the cause of her frequent sickness, they got to the hospital and they wanted blood. It was due to lack of blood and all that, so they wanted donation of blood. They brought the mother traveled. Now when they brought the man, bring blood now, they discovered that the man's blood was not compatible. It was not matching with the daughter's blood. They called the wife. So what happened? She knew all along, So men really are mostly victims, even if the children are dragged into it in the middle of it. They are mostly victims of this. And yes, the question is, what do we do now in this situation? What do we tell the men out there? Well, they say prevention is better than cure. So I would say that the best way to begin the process of avoiding paternity fraud, because you cannot be treating a sickness that the sickness is already there. Do you understand? Preventing it usually is easy to do, but when it's already there, now you are bringing up chemotherapy and the rest of them, now talking about cancer or any kind of sickness. The process that person will go through in that sickness is different from what you would have done to prevent yourself from that sickness. So I would say there is a way we can all avoid this paternity fraud, because fraud is fraud. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, how would you tell a father that, okay, how would you even explain? I mean, he's married to you, you are in the house, you cannot even explain. You brought up this child on your own. So I feel like the best way to begin the process of avoiding paternity fraud is to have several conversations with the woman. First of all, can we, when you are doing courtship and everything, for those people that do courtship in the right ways, when you are doing courtship, you start asking the woman questions, start asking the man questions. People discuss about what you want, how many children you want to give birth to, and everything. Now I feel like you should just talk about it. When our children comes out, will I be allowed to do paternity tests? If you know you are that kind of man that cannot take this thing, if you know you are that kind of man that would kill himself when this whole thing comes up, you should discuss it with the woman first before getting into the marriage. Because I saw something online recently that the woman is threatening the husband that the day you tell me to go and do paternity test, whether I will kill you or I will kill the children or I will divorce you. So now the man is scared of taking paternity tests on the children. You understand? So there should be this conversation first, because it's not written on the forehead that, okay, you are my child. There is something called genetic factor, yes, and the children could look like the woman and then no trait of the man at all, so that becomes a problem.